Okay, so these are calipers. As you can see, there are two different types of measurements here. There's inches down here, right? We don't use inches in science, and we don't use the English system. So the type of measurements we're going to be using are up here in millimeters and centimeters. You can just ignore all of this down here. You don't need to know it. Another thing is this right here that I'm untwisting is used to keep things in place. Okay, so if you have a measurement that you want to take and you want to make sure all of those measurements are the same, you would use this, twist it down, and it'll stay there. Okay, it'll still move that way, but it won't move that way anymore. Alright, so you can measure multiple things. Alright, you can measure the outside of something. Okay, so we're going to measure the outside of this glass. Okay, so see how it won't go anymore? We don't want it to move, so we're going to put that there. Twist that together. Alright, so now we have what the measurement is of this glass. I will show you how to read this in just a few moments. I just want to show you what kind of things you can do with these calipers. Okay, so there's that. You can also measure the inside of things. Okay, so you go inside of the mouth of a beaker. Okay, close this. And now you have the measurement of the inside of the glass. Okay, and you can figure out what that is on here, and I'll show you that in just a few moments. Okay, you can also measure the depth of something. So let's take how high up my computer sits. Okay, so what you do is you use this. Okay, so you can see that this goes down. So as I'm pushing up here, see, this goes down. So then what you can do is you can bring this back like that, and then you can measure this much distance as how far this went down when I was using that right there. Okay? Thank you, computer. You've done your job. Alright. So now, let's figure out how to measure something. Alright. So the first thing I do is write out how many decimal places this is going to use. And we're going to do this in centimeters. Okay? Don't forget to put the units, just put them there at the beginning so that you don't forget them later. Okay, so the first unit we're going to look at is this one. Okay, and it's in centimeters, so if you don't know, this is 1 centimeter, where it goes to the 1. Okay, so from the 1 to the 2, we look at where this 0 on the top lines up down here. And you can see that it comes after the 2 and before the 3. So if it doesn't pass the 3, then it's going to be 2. Okay, the next number, the 10th place, we look at where exactly this 0 mark on top lines up down at the bottom. And you can see that it lines up between the 1 here and the 2 here, and it doesn't go past the 2, so it's going to be a 1. So we already know that it's going to be 2.1 something centimeters. Okay, so now to get the centimeter part, we look at the top. And to get this 100th place, we look at where one of the top lines, okay, doesn't matter what line it is the first one that lines up with one of the bottom lines. And on this, to me, it looks like right about here lines up, where this 6 is. Okay? So, we know that it's after the 7 and before the 8 on the top bar, so we know that it's going to be 7 something. Alright, so now here's where it gets a little tricky. On this caliper, each one of these little marks on top represents 0.02 millimeters. Okay, so that means that this is 7.0, this is 7.2, this is 7.4, 7.6, 7.8, and then 8.0. Alright, So if we say that it lines up right here with the 6, then that is 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's 2.178 centimeters. So if you don't use these type of calipers in class, you will be using these type of calipers. They look pretty much the same except one's plastic and the other is metal. The major difference here is that on these calipers, the metric system is at the bottom, whereas on the other calipers, the metric system was at the top. Another major difference is that the units here are 0.05 instead of 0.02. So this would be 9, that would be 9.5, and that would be 10. Okay, so make sure that whenever you're using the different type of calipers, you know which caliper you're using and you use the right system, metric. Okay? These calipers do the exact same thing the other ones do. You can measure things here, you can measure in between things here, and then you can measure the depth of something with these.